Hello YouTube. Welcome back, and everyone hopefully is nice and excited for Sentinel League. However, with the complete lack of update to the actual meta, I didn't make any new build guides this league, and a lot of people didn't make any new build guides this league. So what we have is a very large amount of relevant league start builds from both the ones that are getting put out now and the ones that got put out last league, since they're all relevant for the first time ever. So I spent several hours looking at all of them to find not just what I thought were the best league starts, but also what I thought were the best versions of those builds, or the best covered ones to give to people. So with 9 builds today, there'll be 3 OP tiers. These are the ones where if you're not picky at all, you should be picking out of the very first 3 that I show you. If you're not picky about what you're playing, these are the 3, in my opinion, for softcore trade, absolute best choices you could do. Then we're getting 3 from the S tier page, which I still think are really good. They're very solid. They'll do everything you want. And then we have 3 more off-meta ones, less popular builds that I still think will do really well, that I'm calling A tier. They will still be able to do everything, still good stuff, and just a little less meta. And we've already seen this one that I have open. This is my current league start plan. That's, we're going to call that F tier. You shouldn't do that. I'm not covering that again in this video. Please don't do it. OP tier league starts, and who did the best job, at least in my opinion, on the guides of all the ones that I could find. Seismic Trap is actually king. So Path of Matth did a new video for Seismic Trap. He's got a super good path of building for it, really detailed leveling guide. This is, in my opinion, the absolute #1 build. This is, if you really have no decision making in your brain, you just want what is the absolute best thing for me to do solo, Seismic Trap is still king. It maps at a pretty reasonable speed. It's not slow by any means, but it is an excellent bosser. So this is the one, this is the version of the build that I personally like the most. This does the tree the exact same way I would do it. Everything about this one, this is the one. So links to all of these will be in the description of the video. So I'm not going to play all these videos. Most of these are 20 to 30 minute build guides. I'm just giving you the options. Path of Maths, Seismic Trapper, OP tier for sure. Then we have Crouching Tuna did this one last league. Now I wasn't able to find a better build guide than this one. There are others that are the same, so this is just the one I picked. But this is the Explosive Arrow Elementalist. I like this version the most, but there are plenty of versions around, and frankly, this build is so damn strong, it won't matter which version you follow. But Crouching did this one last league. It was very good. Again, super in-depth path of building. You will definitely not have any problems if you do Explosive Arrow Elementalist. It is very tanky. You still get the Grace, Determination, Defiance banner stuff. You do millions and millions and millions of DPS, in most cases like 14 million plus. It's a little bit more picky knowledge-wise than Seismic Trap, because you can sort of destroy your own build. But really all you need to know is that you need to reach attack speed cap, which is covered in the guide. You need to reach the attack speeds to get the fuses that you need. And you cannot have any flat fire to attacks anywhere on your gear. As long as you know those 2 things, attack very fast, do not have any flat fire, that is all you need to know. This will go absolutely fantastically, absolutely in the OP tier. Oh, I lied. We've got 4 in the OP tier. There's 10 builds in here. Righteous Fire Inquisitor. Now, this one's a little slower than the other 2. Granted, it's definitely the slowest build on the OP tier list. That does not make it slow. It's just the slowest on the OP tier build. Anyway, Pohx has done an amazing job of this path of building. And leveling guide and everything. Pohx is basically the RF king here. This build is for people who are okay going a little bit slower, but I want to be able to face tank everything in existence. This is one of the tankiest builds I've ever seen, and definitely the tankiest league start that exists, at least that I know of. This thing is insane. It has significantly less DPS than the other things. It's only around 5 or 6 mil in most cases, and I say only because, you know, you're getting 12 out of the explosive arrow and you're getting upwards of 15 when you're done gearing on the seismic trap. So 5 is low comparatively, but it is still way higher than you need. It's still really, really good, absolutely solid. This guide has been done super well, so this is where I would send people for RF Inquisitors. And then we have what I'm combining these last two. These are versions that I did. Hi Baylor. This one's me from last league. I'm combining these two because I believe that's the best way to do it. Skeletal Mages is probably your very best minion build that you can play right now. If you're after a minion build, you're going to want to play Skeletal Mages. They are amazing. However, the Skeletal Mage duel will be very expensive super early, and normal skeletons that aren't Skeletal Mages, a little bit meh. However, the tree for the Absolution Necromancer and the Skeleton Mage build are so very similar. They're almost identical, and you can very easily swap between them. So if you want to start minions, this is also making it onto the OP list. You start day one as an Absolution Necromancer. It is super cheap, super smooth, really, really good. Doesn't really fall off until like late red maps. And by then, you should be able to get your hands on a Skeletal Mage duel, and you can just change into Skeleton Mages. And then off you go, and that is your minions. So those are now my 4 OP tier league start builds. Right? These are the ones right here that you should pick between if you don't have a big preference or idea of what you want to play. You just want to play what the absolute strongest things could be for softcore trade. This is what I think it is. Those 4 builds. So now we're moving on to things that I think are still like S tier, like really good, really, really good, but not quite as good as those, but still amazingly good. So in this tab, we have a few videos. First, we do have another Trapper. This one is probably one of the strongest in this list, but it's if you want really powerful and you like traps, be sick of playing a physical Trapper. This was originally Rutu's build. Tripolar Bear covered it really well. This is a fire trapper. It is literally fire trap. Advantages of this is it's just one trap instead of having an exsanguinate and a seismic. You just have one trap. It does your clear and your single target. Way less buttons. So that's great. Still super defensive. Still tons of damage. Really good. Quite enjoy it. Then this one, which is your Elemental Nightblade Helix Deadeye, which I really, really like. This would probably be my league start if I wasn't going to be playing Lightning Arrow. I would probably be doing this one. Jung covered this really, really well. I actually don't know if he actually league started it or not, but this only downside of this one is that you have to play Spectral Helix, and it is a Nightblade abuser, which we know is fine right now. It is, again, very tanky. This is solid self and hardcore viable. This is more damage than you're going to need. It gets to run its Grace, Determination, Defiance banner. It gets Claws, life gain on hit. It's just got a ton of damage, a ton of speed, a ton of defense. You will be able to do everything in this build. Only downside, you're playing Spectral Helix. So if you don't like Spectral Helix, don't touch it. If you do like Spectral Helix, this is my favorite league start version of Spectral Helix of all the ones that I found. And there are a lot of options, but this one's my favorite. And then we have this one from Kobe or Kobe. I don't know which way I'm supposed to say that, which is the Lightning Strike Berserker. This one's actually insanely good as well. same sort of deal right at the beginning. You do have to level with Helix, but you very, very easily and very, very quickly, like upon reaching maps or very soon after, get to play Lightning Strike, which is much, much better. For those who have never played Lightning Strike before, it has one single downfall, which is that its projectiles do get stopped by individual pebbles. Anyone that tells you this is a huge problem nowadays hasn't played the build recently. It is still a problem, it does still happen, but this build ends up with 4 or 5 additional strikes, which means that there's like your location and 4 or 5 additional locations somewhere around you near other mobs that all the projectiles shoot out from at the same time because of the strike nearby, and that's stacking up a bunch. And so when a few pebbles stop a projectile here and there, not only is it not a problem, it's almost impossible to notice. Like, you would have to really pay attention. Only downside, I couldn't find an update. I couldn't find an update from him with a new guide. So there's the guide that he did for 3.17, and then there's the update that he did a little bit into 3.17, and the update covered some problems and some small changes and some small adjustments that he did during the league that made it a lot better. This was only like, I forget how long in this was, but it wasn't very far into the league. So only downside of this build is I feel like you might need to watch both of these videos to really get an idea of what's going on, because it was a build guide that was then like updated, right? That being said, Lightning Strike is absolutely fantastic, and it basically feels like playing a wanding skill. I don't really count Lightning Strike as like melee. It really feels like you're playing a wand build with a claw on. Same deal, super defensive, determination, grace, defiance, banner, all that stuff. You won't die on this. It will do absolutely everything. So that's the end of our S tier builds. Now we've got some interesting ones. I wanted to find a few a little more off meta, a little less popular builds that I felt would still do absolutely everything to give people a little bit more options. So after going down a YouTube rabbit hole for about 2.5 hours, I found 3 that I'm really happy with. The first one, and my favorite out of the lot, is actually Blade Vortex. This is a full Blade Vortex guide. I've looked at all the path of buildings. I'm actually pretty happy with it. I think it'll achieve everything. A small caveat, I haven't seen this one actually played, and I actually do not know this creator. Name is Chronic Painless, and it is some guy with 200 subscribers. That's how far down the YouTube rabbit hole I went. However, I'm really happy with this guide. I don't know who this guy is, but I'm really happy with it. This is a great guide. If the other videos that this dude puts out has anywhere near as good of a builds as this one, this is going to be a creator that we're going to want to follow. So I'm gonna hit subscribe on that guy right now. Now you can have one more subscriber. I suggest you do too, even if you don't want to follow this build. Finding people who do good build guides, relatively hard nowadays. There's 150 build guides that come out like a day, and like 8 of them are good. So finding another person to add to the list, great. Really happy with this. I'm sorry I don't know who you are, and if you happen to see this video, good build guide. Well done. Blade Vortex as a league start, super good. Actually quite happy. Moving on, we have Spark Inquisitor. Goratha has done a Spark Inquisitor guide. Now, I don't see very many videos from Goratha. I don't know if he YouTubes very much at all, but this one looks pretty solid. I think you can, he's tested it. We've got other videos on his channel of him doing feared encounters and stuff on it. You know, I personally played a Spark Inquisitor, but on a high budget. Just last league, it was super good, so I do know it scales, and Goratha here is toting it and showing path of buildings that look really promising to play Spark right from the word go. So Goratha's Spark Inquisitor, second build I'm putting on the A tier. And then third, last, but certainly not least, the Bane Occultist by Subtractem here. Bane, not super off meta, but it's definitely not popular. It is definitely not popular at all. But Bane is actually a fantastically smooth skill. It is an occultist, so you get your nice occultist pop clear speeds, and it just looks really well done. The guide is really well done. He's done feared encounters and everything on it. We know bossing is going to be good. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with this one as well. Turns out he also has a leveling walkthrough there in the description, in the comments there, so that's also really good. So yeah, that is the culmination of, I don't know how many hours, I lost track of time. That is the culmination of a lot of hours of me watching everybody's YouTube videos. These are the ones that I suggest. Quick caveat, that does not mean there weren't other guides out there that were good. There were a ton of good guides. I had to pick the best from each category, and they were based on a few things. They were the best build, and then the best covered build as well. This doesn't mean other people's versions were bad. There might even be a version that was done slightly better on one of the other builds. However, the path of building wasn't put together as well. It didn't have as much hand holding in it. So these are that sort of thing. So these are just the ones that I'm happy to suggest to people. There are plenty of other really good builds around. But these are the ones I picked. You got some super meta ones. You've got some 1 tier down builds that are still fantastic. And we've got a few off meta builds that are off meta enough to be different, but still using powerhouse mechanics and still doing things that will definitely be able to work. So that's all I've got. I'm really excited for this league. I hope a bunch of people pick some of these league starts. If you don't know what you're doing, if you feel worried about like whose build you should follow, just use one of the links from this video. Follow that creator as well when you get there. Remember, hit the subscribe button on them. Watch their videos. Take their path of buildings. These are the great ones. I like them, and I will see everybody later.